What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here with your $1,400 third stimulus check update and stimulus package update. Wow, absolutely crazy last night. If you didn't catch my 11 p.m. Eastern time video late last night or 8 p.m. West Coast time video, we have absolutely crazy news. Congress is desperately running around like crazy, trying to figure out what to do and what is going to happen moving forward. We're going to jump right in. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on updates on the third stimulus check package, and hit the like button for us. It really helps out our channel. Okay, late last night, the Senate parliamentarian, who is Elizabeth McDonough, ruled the $15 an hour minimum wage provision of the bill cannot be included in the third stimulus check package. So there's a plethora of things that can happen. I'm going to give you the latest details on what is set to happen, as they're still set to vote on this today in the U.S. House of Representatives. But basically, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Bernie Sanders, and Joe Biden are literally running around like crazy, trying to figure out how to salvage the situation. And honestly, they're not even quite sure what they're going to do. I'll give you the latest here on what they're expected to do. President Joe Biden says that he is disappointed in the Senate parliamentarian's ruling, but respects her decision. Quote, President Biden is disappointed in this outcome, as he has proposed the $15 an hour minimum wage as part of the American Rescue Plan. He respects the parliamentarian's decision and the Senate's process, says White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki in a statement released last night. Quote, he will work with leaders in Congress to determine the best path forward, because no one in this country should work full time and live in poverty. Quote, he urges Congress to move quickly to pass the American Rescue Plan, which includes $1,400 rescue checks or stimulus checks for most Americans, funding to get the virus under control, aid to our schools reopened, and desperately needed help for people who have been hit hardest by the crisis. But here's where it gets interesting. This statement from the White House makes it clear that the White House will not look to overrule the decision by the Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough earlier this last night to nix the provision to include the $15 an hour minimum wage in this bill. White House Chief of Staff Ron Klein said on Wednesday that Vice President Kamala Harris, as president of the Senate, would not try to overturn the decision if the Senate parliamentarian decided the minimum wage could not be part of the bill. However, it looks like Nancy Pelosi and possibly Senator Bernie Sanders, who's the Senate budget chairman, have other ideas. Nancy Pelosi and the House Democrats are set to still vote on this bill today, and they're actually going to keep the $15 an hour minimum wage in the bill for the vote today in the House of Representatives. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the Senate parliamentarian's ruling is disappointed. Raising the minimum wage would give 27 million Americans a raise during this devastating economic crisis. House Democrats are determined to fight for the $15 an hour minimum wage. The policy will remain in the bill tomorrow and pass tomorrow. So what Nancy Pelosi here is doing is she's kind of punting to the Senate. So what she is preparing to do, apparently it looks like, I would not be surprised if this does not change throughout the day, because honestly, Democrats are just completely scrambling right now. Their whole plan has been turned on its head, and they're just shooting from the hip right now. They're not really even sure how they're going to proceed, because I'm going to tell you what happens next here after this. But what Nancy Pelosi is saying is that the House is going to continue with their vote with the bill the way it was, and she thinks they're going to pass it. We'll get to that here in a second too. But let's say that they put that in there and they leave the bill with the $15 an hour minimum. This is why a lot of people ask me, why are you talking about the $15 an hour minimum wage? Well, because it's a huge part of the third stimulus check package bill. Literally, the whole bill is turned on its head right now because the Senate parliamentarian determined that it can't be in the bill. Well, Nancy Pelosi basically just said, well, we're going to vote on it anyways and include it in the bill. So, yeah, the $15 an hour minimum wage is a huge deal because it could delay this package. Okay. So let's it seems like Nancy Pelosi is punting here. Okay. That's a football term if you don't know what punting is. What I think she's doing is she's going to vote on the bill and hopefully pass it with the minimum wage in there. Then they're going to send it to the Senate. So they're punting it to the Senate, and then the Senate is going to decide what they're going to do, or President Biden is going to step in and tell them what to do, even though they could pass it without his approval, but then he could not sign it. I doubt that would happen. But what's going to happen is it's going to go to the Senate, and they can overturn her ruling, okay, with a simple majority vote of 51 votes. However, they need 50 votes to do that. And Senator Joe Manchin has made it very clear he will not vote for, one, he doesn't even like the minimum wage bill, and two, he's made it very clear that he will not vote for anything that is not legal, which in this case means the Senate parliamentarian has determined that it's not legal. I mean, these bills are law. When these bills are signed into law, they become law. So in this case, legal is actually the correct word. That this bill is not legal and should not be included in the package because they're passing the package with the reconciliation process, which means they only need 51 votes, which means that the Democrats can pass it on their own. But to do that, it has to be part of the budget reconciliation process. And the Senate parliamentarian has determined that a minimum wage increase cannot be put in and passed through a budgetary reconciliation process. Now, the Senate can overrule her and thus pass it into law. But to do that, they need 51 votes. And Senator Joe Manchin has said clearly he's not going to do that, so they don't have 51 votes. So this is where it's going to get a little tricky. And honestly, this is it's I've seen some comments. This is like a soap opera. This is really like we're in the heart of the soap opera right now, and anything could happen at this point. It's actually kind of crazy. I personally didn't expect the parliamentarian to say no to this bill because the Congressional Budget Office came out and they had this whole big report that they did on how the minimum wage would affect the budget. And based on the data, it looked like the easy decision was to say, yeah, the minimum wage does affect the national budget, so it can be included in the bill. Well, the Senate parliamentarian had other ideas and said, nope, it can't. So what I think is going to happen, I think they're going to have to pass the bill ultimately without the minimum wage provision in there. And this doesn't mean $15 an hour or $10 an hour. It just means it can't be in there at all. It can't be in there as part of the budgetary reconciliation process unless they overturn her ruling. But it looks like they don't have the votes to overturn her ruling. So what I think is going to happen is they're going to have to pass this third stimulus check package bill without the minimum wage provision in there. They're just going to have to go into the computer file, delete those 10 pages, wherever or however many pages it is, and then they're going to have to pass it. Okay. So the House is going to pass it or vote on it tomorrow with that provision in there. Okay. I mean, I don't think that's going to fly. That will cause a little bit of a delay, but it's really not that big of a deal because honestly, the House can re-vote on it again the very next day. If we know about Nancy Pelosi, once the bill's done, which it is, and again, just deleting the bill doesn't seem like an issue. They could just literally vote on it the next day. We've seen this in the past here on some other stimulus packages and other bills where the House will pass it, they'll send it to the Senate. The Senate will amend it. They'll be like, no, we're not going to pass it in its current form. We're going to amend it. And then the Senate passes, and the House literally votes on it the same day or the next day, and then they pass it. So that's really not a big delay there. I mean, we're talking maybe a day, okay? But what I do see could be a delay is this. Okay, well, it looks like Bernie Sanders may have deleted this tweet, but what Bernie Sanders said, and maybe there's another article about it or something like that, but for the sake of time, let me just tell you. Bernie Sanders said something to the effect of, the Senate is going to go and amend the wording of the bill. And they're basically going to come up with a creative way to make the $15 an hour minimum wage affect the budget. I believe it was something along the lines of, the minimum wage will have a provision in there that if businesses don't adhere to it, they'll have to pay a fine to the government, which will create a budgetary response. In fact, here it is. Bernie Sanders proposes a way to address the minimum wage in the COVID-19 bill after the Senate rules that the $15 an hour minimum wage cannot be in there. He says that a tax penalty for not raising the minimum wage must be included in this reconciliation bill. Senator Bernie Sanders said in a statement that he planned to look into an amendment that would take tax deductions away from big businesses that don't pay workers at least $15 an hour. Quote, in the coming days, I will be working with my colleagues in the Senate to move forward with an amendment to take tax deductions away from large profitable corporations that don't pay workers at least $15 an hour, and to provide small businesses with the incentives they need to raise wages. That amendment must be included in this reconciliation bill. So, as you can see there, that is a way for them to possibly still get this minimum wage in the bill. Democratic Representative Ro Khanna says, I'm sorry. An unelected parliamentarian does not get to deprive 32 million Americans the raise they deserve. This is an advisory, not a ruling. Vice President Kamala Harris needs to disregard and rule a $15 an hour minimum wage. Well, to do that, remember, they need all 50 votes, including Senator Joe Manchin, to say yes to this. We were elected to deliver for the people. It's time. Let us do our job. Now, the other kind of issue here is the House of Representatives. Is that one? We're getting some Democrats that are kind of like more progressive and less progressive, basically far left leaning and middle leaning, that are unhappy about this. Okay, so we're starting to get some Democrats saying that the minimum wage shouldn't be in there, and if it is in there, they're not going to vote yes. And then we're getting some Democrats saying that if it's not in there, if the minimum wage increase is not in there, then they're not going to vote for it. Now, here's the problem with either way of this. I think ultimately they'll figure this out. But you can see here that there's 221 Democrats in the House of Representatives and 211 in Republicans. So they have a 10 vote lead. So what that means here, if you say if you get 5 Democrats that vote no, that's 216, and then you would have 216 Republicans that say yes, and it would not pass because it would be 216 to 216. I don't know if there's a tiebreaker rule in the House of Representatives. Let's just say there is. Okay, so that would mean only 5 Democrats in the House out of 221 Democrats can say no to the bill, okay, and not get it passed. So if they get 6 Democrats that say no to the bill, it won't pass the House. Now, what they'll do is they'll just amend it. They'll get those people in the room, all the no's, and they're like, "All right, guys, what do we need to do for you to say yes?" And then they'll make a revision, and they'll vote on it again the same day or the next day. So ultimately, they're going to figure out how to do this. The House is set to vote on this today, still at this point, and include the $15 an hour minimum wage. Bernie Sanders is literally trying to cook up ideas right now. Picture Bernie Sanders like, in his in his lab at his house, and he's cooking up, and he's got a mask on, and he's got mittens on, and he's trying to cook up ideas on how to pass this bill. That's basically what Democrats are doing right now. They're like, well, we weren't expecting that. How do we get it? How do we get it passed? So the Democrats in the House are going to try to pass it today. Again, they need 99% of Democrats to say yes, which they have done through the preliminary votings. But this whole minimum wage thing is kind of throwing a wrench into their soup. And there's like some Democrats who don't like that it's in there. And then there's other Democrats who don't like it if it's not in there. And it's like they have to please everybody. And meanwhile, all the Republicans are on the side like laughing at them. And like every Republican in the House and the Senate is going to vote no matter what. So like not a single Republican is going to vote yes on this bill. And they're like laughing at the Democrats who are trying to pass this bill, but basically the parliamentarian just threw a wrench in their soup. And Nancy Pelosi says, guess what? We're going to vote on it anyways today. We're going to pass it today, and we're going to include it in there. And if later on, tomorrow, when the Senate tries to vote on it or rule on it, or that if they said take it out, okay, let them pass it and then send it back to us, and then we'll pass it on. So honestly, we're at the finish line. We're at the voting stage, but it's literally it's like some of you guys have said. It's like a soap opera. Where, like we have no idea what's going to happen at the next twist or turn. So that's the latest updates for today. Don't miss any videos today because it is going to be crazy today. Remember, subscribe down below. Click the bell icon to get notifications after you subscribe. It's completely free to subscribe. New videos come out every day at 10 a.m. 3 p.m., 8 p.m., and 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We could have this bill passed in the U.S. House of Representatives today. And there's going to be lots of breaking news going on about what they're going to do with this minimum wage bill in the bill, whether it's going to make it to the finish line or not. Let me know your thoughts. You can click this top video here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video teaches you how to start your own business selling products on Amazon FBA. I have dozens of students that have replaced their 9-to-5 income selling products on Amazon, and I teach them how to do that. Click on one of those videos to watch them next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.